Welcome back, everyone, to another digital conversation with some fabulous artists. This time we have Carol Nussbaum with us, who is our fourth Nomadency digital art residency applicant and participant. Carol, welcome today. And with
Thank you.
us, we have our curatorial director, Catherine Bergman, and our communications director, Cassie Combs. Hello, Cassie and Catherine.
Hi, Nathan. Hello,
Hello.
Carol. Welcome.
Yes, nice.
And
Well,
we're really excited to talk about what Carol's made for the Nomadency program. And just to catch everyone up on what Nomadency is, this is our inaugural year for the Nomadency program. It's a digital art residency. And what does that mean? It means that people from around the world can apply to contribute to projects and make something around the theme. This year, our theme was play. So, Carol, you came up with some really amazing mandalas around the theme of play, and we're excited to see those. Cassie, is there anything else about the Nomadency program you want to tell us about?
I think you pretty much nailed it. We did ask everybody if they were using AI to allow, to say that you were doing that. And then everything had to be digital. So digital presentation and conceived as digital. Other than that, and I mean, you know what I will do is read what the description of Carol's project. And she proposed using the word play in relation to children's games, focusing on toys, classic games, game pieces, and dolls. Just as children's play is educational, I am playing with the notion of the children's toys turned into art can be enjoyable to view, but also as a tool for teaching. So with that being said, I think we'll just let Carol tell us more about her project, and I will actually share my screen so we can show her project as she talks. Hopefully it's coming up. Can you guys see that?
oh, yes.
Yes.
But tell us about yourself, Carol. Tell us a little bit about yourself before you tell us about your project, if you would.
Oh, thank you. Well, first, let me begin by thanking you all for this opportunity, and for encouraging me and giving me a great idea. If you had left the project concept open-ended, I probably would have gone off in a million different directions. But play was inspirational and exciting, and I was thrilled to fall into this rabbit hole and go in and out of flea markets and toy stores with my camera. I got thrown out of a few toy stores as well.
Why?
But it never deters me.
Did they think that you were going to sell designs to a different country,
I
or?
don't know, and it was interesting. Even, I think I mentioned before you started recording that I'm so excited about what I've done so far that I'm continuing to take photos in toy stores and in antique shows of these kinds of objects, because I have a solo show coming up at a gallery in New York City in the spring, and I want to show all the toy mandalas that I've created because I'm just so happy with the dimension and the depth and the way the colors all complement each other and contrast to one another. It's been a really fun project for me. So I thank you all for selecting me and giving me this unique and wonderful opportunity. It's given me a little bit more confidence when it comes with regard to future residency projects and applications in that in that realm. This was my first residency, and it worked out really well, being nomadic. But I'm happy to be present for any residency, because there's just there's so much to learn on both sides, and I really enjoy growing and learning and expanding my art horizons. To be brief, I was an art major and a photography major in college, and was lucky enough to graduate with a job waiting for me as an assistant art director in advertising. I was also a graphic design major. Photography was my first love, but I went where the paycheck was and made my father very happy, because then I was off the payroll at home, and stayed in advertising in one form or another until my kids were born, and then went freelance and continued with logo design and graphic design until about 15 years ago, when I thought it was time to give up the film camera and start learning digital. And I went back to school to learn more about it, and I actually never stopped taking classes. I still commit 3 hours a week to continuing my education within Photoshop, Lightroom, and all the Adobe software, because I am determined not to become a dinosaur.
Wow.
And there's always something new. And you mentioned a couple minutes ago about AI, and that really troubles me in a lot of ways, because of the shortcuts that some artists are beginning to take, and I'm determined not to go down that road, because I think the whole point is being able to create. I wouldn't be able to call myself a true artist if I let somebody else create for me, whether it's a robot or another person. And so I like knowing about AI, but I don't think it has a place in my artwork. That being said, what you're looking at on the screen right now is the initial photograph, and how I do have a presentation prepared if I get to share my screen momentarily on what my process is and how I get to this point on on any of my finished pieces. Because in this case, the initial photograph was a basket of little mini plastic children's figurines, and there's a Frogger in there, and a number of other little pieces in the I lost the screen share for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna let you share
Oh, okay.
if you want to do that.
Okay, I don't actually have that one set up, but I do have this process set up. So let's do it. So can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an example of what a photograph that I've taken. In this case, it was little mini children's book bindings at a bookstore in, I think it was in Venice. And, it's just a really colorful piece. And I really liked it because of the depth and the dimension and the colors. And so to go through my process with regard to Mandala, and this is a shortcut because I think I'm going to show you maybe 12 steps, and there's really more like 100 steps, because there's color correcting, and there's fine tuning, there's making it a smart object, there's contrast, brightness, there's a lot of adjustments that need to be made, and then there's retouching. So the first thing that I do with this photo that I think has potential is I create a sliver to work with. So that's my template for just one little piece of pie, that the part of the image that I think will work best. It may be how the colors come together. It may be where the depth is the most apparent. It may be the piece that my depth of field was more spot on with regard to focus and dimension. And then from there, I copy that little sliver and start repeating it. I have to move it several times till I get it in the right position, and then I just keep repeating. But I'm not repeating it exactly, because I actually, to get there to be no seam, I'm sure you've seen other photographic mandalas where you can see how they're put together, or they might look like a pinwheel because they're all facing the same way. That's not how I do mine. I'm flipping them forward and backwards and upside down and right side up, so you can't ever find the seam.
Interesting. Very cool.
And then in some cases, at this point, I may be finished because I might like the way the edges of it look on the outside. But in other cases, I decide that it needs to be more finite and be a little bit truer to, you know, the essence of what a mandala is, which is balance and harmony, and you know, be a focal point, oneness with the universe. It's all you know, circular rings that are all repeating, and does that go?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, there's the complete image. And just to go back to where we started, that's what it started with again.
That's so great.
So, you know, and when I first started fooling around with this process, you know, there's a lot of different tutorials on the internet to get you where you want to go. But I felt that they were all not fine-tuned enough and not finished enough looking. And thanks to the brilliant mind of my son, who is always ahead of the game on anything and everything when it comes to computers and software. And I guess that's how most young adults are, because they grew up with it, so they have less fear about experimentation. He advised me about 10 years ago that for every one mandala that I feel is finished and successful, I need to have created 100 of them to get there. That practice makes perfect. And without doing it again and again and again, you'll never really know that you have it. He wasn't wrong, but 100 is a lot to do. There are some weeks where I actually do 100, and it could be the same image that I'm working with, and I'm choosing a different sliver till I find that, because I just know that that image is going to get me where I want to go, but I just don't know which piece of the image is the one that's going to work the best. And it's very rare that I give up on an image, because even if it didn't work, there's times where the color I find might be distracting, but I feel like there's graphics involved that are worth pursuing. And so I eliminate all the color and I'll go to a black and white image. And the black and white will give it a completely different feel. It might be a little more sophisticated looking because you don't get lost in the playfulness of the color. You know, and in our project together, playfulness was key. So color was really important, how the colors blended, how they contrasted, how they complemented one another, and the pattern that the colors created. I mean, it was really very exciting and rewarding. And I, you know, from the look on everyone's faces, I get that you feel that way too. And that really is the whole point as an artist.
It is the whole point. I do have a question.
Sure.
So your first sliver that you had there, is what percent of the pie is that? And then, like, is that what you always do, that same percent?
That's what I'm always doing recently. Yes.
Okay.
That first piece of pie is, let me just think for a second. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1/24th.
Okay. Interesting.
You know, and then, you know, what, as I went through it and showed you, so that, let me just delete all of these again. So when I'm at this point with it, I know that that's not where I want to repeat. What I want to repeat is that piece into that.
Mm.
So as I am increasing the pattern, I start doubling it. So the first one was 1/24th, and then I end up with that piece will be 1/12th.
Mhm.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay, and then I'll repeat the 1/12th 3 times in that 1/4.
All right.
Uh,
And then when I have the quarter filled, I can copy that quarter and create a half,
yeah.
and then create the whole.
Mm.
It's all math, and my dad was a CPA, and it's probably the only math I ever remembered.
It is math, though. That's great.
This particular piece looks like a roulette wheel to me.
Doesn't it? Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think it's like the little circular things look like marbles that are going through the roulette wheel, but the colors actually
Mm.
betray the seriousness of a roulette wheel.
Mm. Very nice. Now the crosshairs, the little turquoise.
That goes away. It's just that these were all screenshots from
Okay.
this process, and that
Yeah.
keeps me in check with making sure that everything lines up the way I want it to. Because
Yep.
sometimes, for whatever reason, the sliver doesn't line up correctly, and if I don't fill that quarter the way I want it to, I have to start all over again.
Mm.
On that probably happens 1 out of every 2 tries where I get to the quarter point and I'm excited about it and it doesn't fill it right, and I have to start from scratch and choose a sliver and have it fill that that little 1/24th template. And that's probably the only thing that is standard in my whole process. Is I do have a couple of these different templates that I created, whether they're a 1/24th or a 1/12th or a 1/4, depending on the image. That's, you know, where I'm going to start and what I'm going to leap from.
Am I the only one who sees that little face, that little mask face?
Yeah,
The
pink.
red eyes.
Yeah.
I have a friend that is a huge fan of my work, and she has some really some of my larger pieces, and she went from friend to collector, which gives her, you know, double points.
Definitely.
She always finds hearts in all my work.
Huh.
I think, you know, I think that it's a really fun Where's Waldo experience to look at these finished pieces and see what you see, as long as it's not something that's scary or, you know, evil.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see your process.
And I'll have to kill you all. No, kidding.
Yeah.
If anyone feels like one of my mentors says, you know, that there's so many people out there that have create the algorithm and post it, you know, on the internet as a YouTube video. And it's just, you know, you should really do that because your process isn't like everybody else's. It's, you know, really unique, and your, you know, work is so refined. And I'm like, you know, I'm normally a very giving, sharing kind of person, and in this instance, you are all like the first that I've ever shown an inkling of my process to, because I feel such pride of ownership in coming up with this way to create it.
Naturally, as you should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then the other sneak peek is this page, which shows how many I created for this project in the course of, the month of August while the residency was ongoing and live. How many I created to get to the 3 that I submitted. And I was aware, I think Cassie and I had talked via email with regard to how many pieces Dunedin was looking for. And, I was like, do they want 10? Do they want 7? How, because I'm having a lot of fun. And, Cassie was like, other artists are making 1. And I'm like, what? I can't just do 1. I'm having too much fun.
Did more, but yeah, most of yeah. And
Well, it's different when you're painting versus, well, they're not painting, but everybody's digital process is very different. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what the other artists have created, because I did go on the website link and I didn't see anything loaded yet. My name was there and there's no images yet. And I'm like, come on, I want to see
Well,
what
it's a little confusing because like maybe one artist did one piece, but then another artist did one, I'll call it more of a project. So it's a very detailed, heavily involved project. But it's just one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that's right.
I think your process and
Everybody,
your
but
process
quantity
and work
multiple.
lends, yeah, your process and work lends itself to multiplicity, and self-similarity and fractals, and so it's really interesting.
well, it also was really good timing because there was I live at the Jersey Shore in the summer, and there's quite a few children's toy shops, as well as there were 2 antique antique shows where I know from previous experience that there are toy vendors there. So I had a plentiful amount of photos to be able to work from. And then on like just a coincidence thing was I had been in Mexico in at the end of April, and we were I think our plane got delayed, so I was wandering around the airport, and I found at the Cancun airport this little kiosk that had Mexican children's toys. I don't even think that I don't think that I had applied for the residency at that point. But I thought that the colors were really interesting, and I said, I'll take some photos, and you never know where it's going to lead me. And I think there are 2 of the images on here were from, 3. There's 3 images that were from my Mexico adventure.
I love that. The way it looked like snakes, the finger.
Oh, I know. Isn't that really
Can we bring up
fun?
the images again?
Cool.
Yeah.
I can just make them a little larger, because these are just JPEGs. I didn't, and then it was also deciding which way they look better. Is it a black background or is it a white background? There's always so many decisions to make, because I think sometimes, depending on the image, white flattens it, but black makes it look more dimensional.
So on my screen, I'm still seeing the process.
Me too.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know why it didn't switch over.
I think you have to hit the red one that says stop share or something
And
like
then
that.
share again.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to show the images or do you want?
No, I think it should work. It should work now. Okay. Is that working now?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, great. Sorry. Apologies on that.
That's okay.
Okay. So, let me just make them a little smaller so you can see how many I created.
Gosh,
And then
yes.
there's 2 samples of what the original photograph was. So if we look at, I just want to get to it. So this was at a toy store on Long Beach Island. It's just all little Matchbox cars all lined up. They were like that. So that was very lucky for me. And that was the mandala that came out of that.
Nice. Amazing.
Nice. Yeah, that's fun.
It's like
It
a major traffic jam.
And Carol, do you feel that people who maybe normally wouldn't respond that well to abstraction, when they get a little glimpse of, some sort of realistic element, that it kind of opens it up for them?
Every sale
Mm.
that I make on any of my work, I've been doing this for a long time, I give them a sheet after the purchase, so it's going to be emailed or shipped out at a later date. I call it the mandala story, and it has the original image and what
Oh,
and the mandala on that page, as well as where I took the photo and when I took the photo. And I can't remember, like, if I have 300 collectors at this point, every one of them has said that they love having that background information on where the image began, because it gives them a whole nother dimension to the piece, and a depth and a story to tell. Does that answer kind of what you were asking?
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, and then
And you
there's,
know what? That one in particular read like a mille fleur.
yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, definite, like a mosaic, the glass paperweights.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
thank you for that. And then I have another one. Okay, so this was, you can even see a price sticker on one of them. This was at the Mexican airport, the original image. And these are children's beaded bracelets, and
uh,
that's probably even more mille fleur.
yeah, gorgeous,
Mhm.
gorgeous.
So, the
Mm.
colors with children's toys are so fun and full of life and energy and
Uh,
joy and happiness. So it was just a
mm,
joyful project. Um, and
mm.
this is one of the ones, this was the Mexican finger pull. So I don't
Yeah,
have the original image of that for this presentation, but you can kind of see, in this case, I did not put the circular confine around it because I loved the shape that the
yeah,
actual finger pulls created around the border.
yeah. That was a good decision, definitely.
This one needed to look expansive versus looking
Mm.
confined. And
And the weaving, the zigzag just adds such a complexity, right?
oh, I love
Uh,
the texture. It just really
yeah,
feels like you want to touch it because you want to feel how scratchy or soft it might be.
those things to drive me crazy, those little finger puzzles.
Until you're about 5 years old, and then you just want to throw them out the window. Yeah, this
Oh,
one was Russian nesting dolls.
oh my gosh, yes.
And sometimes with faces, it can look creepy or it can look
Mm.
fun. I have a friend that let me into her basement. She has a vintage Barbie collection, and especially with all the Barbie hype
Wow.
going on this summer, I was very grateful that she let me attack her basement. And all the photos that I took of Barbies, all the Barbies started to look deformed and villainous. And
Oh,
I really wanted to be able to do, the Barbies. However, she
yeah.
also had a Polly Pocket collection.
Yes.
And that's where this is one of Polly Pocket's little, the little homes that everybody stored their little Polly Pockets in. So this was, Polly Pocket's house, just a little, obviously from my sliver, just a little piece of her house. And I loved the little spiky things. Is a Polly
Yeah.
Pocket airbrush that was just thrown on top of the little carrier. And I just thought that was so,
Yeah.
it really leads you into the whole thing. And then Um,
So much like like pistils
yeah,
of
it
the
looks,
flower. It's
yep.
incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was really excited about this one, and I asked her if I could come back to her house and take some more.
Oh boy, so vivid. They're
Again, this
each-
was just really fun. It's just another bucket of children's plastic toys. You know, you never know what a bucket of toys is going to reap. Okay,
Oh,
this was from the Barbie collection, but this was her original Barbie carrying case. So
oh
it
wow.
was this black, red, gold, and blue vinyl case with the little closure that, you know, the toggle that turns. And
Yes.
I laid it down and just took it. You know, this doesn't have the same dimension as what my usual goal
Mhm.
is with regard to mandalas, but I still thought it was a great Barbie representation. If I was going to go that way, all the pieces that I sent to Cassie, I opted for all the mandalas that had depth, dimension, and a little bit more
Mm,
intricacy with regard to pattern.
mm.
But that doesn't count this one out for future something.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Mm.
No.
Oh, okay. This is back to Mexico.
Uh, oh, yeah. Wow.
Um, these were woven kind of like hacky sack balls, but not hacky
Mm.
sack. I would
Yeah.
love to find a bucket of hacky sack balls because I think the knit would be really cool.
The possibilities are endless.
Yes. And
It's
again,
really,
here was the difference between the white
oh,
background, which brings out the white pattern,
Yeah.
yeah.
but the black
The palette.
background gives
Oh,
it dimension.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. Really remarkable. So were you ever, I mean, could you anticipate when you started with the sliver, could you anticipate what might come about, or it's almost like that alchemical phenomenon that happens in the dark room where revealing itself as you go.
I think I've done this enough times to
Mm,
still always be surprised
mm,
at the outcome. However, I've also I know when I walk into a store which photographs have potential or which pieces
mm,
have potential. I don't know the full
mm,
end result yet, but I know that there's a sliver in there somewhere that is going to take me down a really interesting road.
Mhm.
mm.
This one we missed before.
Yeah.
These this
Huh.
Croatian knitted animals that
Oh,
I took a year ago at um, a kiosk walking around in uh, Rovinj, Croatia.
so you travel quite a bit.
It's mostly for yoga retreats.
Oh,
Wow.
cool.
So I have a friend, a yoga instructor that organizes retreats abroad on an annual basis. And it's a really great group of articulate, intelligent, yoga based, but not yoga obsessed people who love to have an excuse to travel. So with this group, I've done Santorini, the Algarve in Portugal, Croatia. I just got back from Crete, and I'm missing one. There's one that
Wow.
I'm forgetting, and it always adds a great. It's a great cleansing, a great recentering. It's very on
Mm,
target with mandalas and all of that balance and harmony.
exactly.
Um,
You can start to pay for your experience with mandalas, and you can use them in the retreat.
And I've been asked to do that. Yes. Yeah, it's a really great, great opportunity. And my husband is not Mr. Traveler, so it's a great way for him to have what he calls a staycation, which means I'm not asking him what time he's coming home from work. He can work as long as he wants to.
Oh,
And I can go have an experience and broaden my mind and my calm and my inner harmony, and then
yeah.
come back ready to work work like crazy. I have a stockpile of photos in my camera that I'm looking forward to uploading onto my desktop and start to play with.
Mm. Now, my darn computer, I had to pop off for a little bit, and now I'm on my phone, but I missed, do you use Photoshop? Is that your primary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I open an image in Photoshop, and starting with the original image, I will do all the I kind of have a roadmap of all the usual adjustments that I like to make to get my image to look the right the right color calibration, the right sharpness, the right level, the right there's so many things, if you're familiar with Photoshop, that you need to adjust before you can really do anything. And I usually hit all of them, from curves to color calibration to hue saturation. All of that is done before I even start a sliver.
Yeah, wow.
So Carol, you must be quite masterful with that program by now.
I would never call myself masterful at anything. I think that I'm always learning, and I'm always eager to learn more. But if you
How many
wanted me to
years-
change, change, if I did a portrait of you and you wanted me to change your sweater, yes, I can do that.
Mm.
How
Thank
about
you.
shave my beard?
I could do that too. Yes. I could give you ginger colored hair too, but
Ooh,
that's uh, personal taste. Yeah, it's Photoshop is just constantly evolving and changing, and all of the Adobe platforms are
Mm.
uh, really incredible. The group
Mm.
that I've been working with now, on a critique and learning basis, it's 3 hours every Tuesday morning.
Oh,
Um, and for all that I know, there's always so much more to
so
learn.
it's an online tutorial that.
Yes, it
Mhm.
started out years ago in person, and then the instructor switched it to the online Zoom format during COVID, and
Mhm.
everybody agreed that it made more sense just to keep it online. He can, just like we're doing, he can share. I'm going
Yeah.
to stop sharing my screen now. He
Mm.
can share his screen and teach us whatever new tricks are, and we can have lively discussions about AI, or generative
Mm.
fills, and the different options that are coming up in the digital world these days. I have a daughter who is a casting associate at Disney feature films, and
Mm.
she has kind of kept me a little more informed than maybe the media is keeping everybody else about what's going on with how SAG-AFTRA feels about AI in the movies.
Ah.
And as a result of that, it makes me even more sensitive to how I feel about AI in the art world.
Carol, I
Mm.
had a question about
Yeah.
so the acceptance of digital art in general has obviously increased, over the past 10 or 20 years, right? Do you recall an instance where you yourself as a digital artist had some resistance from a more traditional artist, maybe photography or painting or anything like that, where they were kind of giving you a hard time about digital art and all what you do?
Absolutely. I going back 15 years or so, um, my photography back then was I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. I'll go all the way back to college. So let me like hit reset there. If I go back to college, and when we would have an excursion and be hiking through the Adirondacks, and everybody was taking photos of the landscape or the trees or the forest in the distance, I would get more focused on a pile of leaves or the bark on the trees, the graphics and the linear aspects of what I saw. And it wasn't macro, it was just that pattern was, attracting my attention. And at the end of the excursion, we would sit down and everybody would show whatever was in their camera or print. And the photography teacher would say, everybody's work is great, but Carol, you didn't really follow the assignment. And so when you fast forward to when I decided I felt bold enough to start putting some of my photos into shows through call for entry online. Are you familiar with that platform? And so I would look at photo exhibitions, and my work didn't fit the bill there either. So if I had taken photos of flowers at the Philadelphia Flower Show, but then did something with Photoshop to enhance them, or maybe abstract them, or maybe I even moved my camera on purpose to make the colors blur across the frame, my work would never get accepted because it wasn't true, realistic photography. And so it was a learning curve to me, not only continuing to not fulfill the assignment the way somebody specifically asked, but me knowing that I had my own path to follow, and that I wasn't going to let some of those rejections color my path.
Yeah.
And so, you get rejected enough times, you either realize, one, oh, I'm not good enough, my work doesn't measure up, or maybe I'm onto something and they need to catch up to me.
There you go.
So, yoga helps with that, because yoga is all about finding the positive out of every situation so that it becomes a learning process, not a deterring, it's not a deterrent, it's moving forward. Over the last 15 years, I can't call it my lane because I don't think I'm in a lane, but I've definitely found more acceptance for what I do and how I do it. And, and there's just so many more possibilities. And that's not to be negative in any way about the true essence of realism and photography in its truest form, because I'm as great an appreciator of that as anyone. That's just not where I'm coming from. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Does it make sense to me? You said you started doing mandalas 10 years ago, right?
A little more than 10 years ago, yes.
And if you did say, I apologize for
That's
not.
okay.
And what was the reasoning behind it too?
I took a class that was alternative photography and tricks, and every week it was learning another trick to do, in Photoshop, to make a realistic photo look a little different. And that particular class, he showed us mirroring.
Mm.
And so it was really, I took a photo of one of my kids playing soccer. She was the goalie, on her soccer team in high school. And I had a photo of her. And at first I turned it into line art. And then I took the line art and flipped it so that her foot kicking the ball was actually touching the other foot. And I thought, oh, that looks really cool. I'm never going to do anything with this, but what a cool process. So then I decided to take that picture and turn it into a foursome, a quadrant. And then I was like, well, that's even cooler. Do I want to take it from 4 squares and turn it into 8 squares? And, and then I was just like, I think I just made up something, which I didn't make it up. No one is really the first to do anything unless you invented the wheel. But I just hadn't seen what I was doing yet. Yes, years later, coloring books of mandalas came out,
Right.
and there's a
Yeah.
lot more things along those lines, but that wasn't there yet.
I wish I knew you then, because we did have a mandala show at the Art Center many, many years ago. It was called Encircled.
Oh,
And it was
what a great name.
a variety of media. Yeah, but I wish I had known what you were doing then.
Well, if you ever circle back to that, call me.
There you go.
That's great. Does anybody else have any other questions? Or Carol, do you want me to share any of anything else? Your social media or anything like that?
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, if you don't already know, my website is carolnussbaum.com. Very easy. It's just my name, all lowercase. And follow me on Instagram, which is also at Carol Nussbaum. Yeah, that's my website.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. It's been a joy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Meet you.
I would love it if you shared with the group the black and white, so you can see what I was talking about. There's a black and white gallery. If you scroll up, black and whites have such a different feel
yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
So, I just feel like they have a whole different sophistication and graphic element. This was a fish in Bermuda.
Oh.
Yeah, I can
Oh,
see
wow.
I don't have the fish head as part of it, because it would have been it just looked weird. I cropped the head off, but I didn't kill the fish. The fish lives.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it's just so geometric from organic forms.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Carol, it's been a pleasure hearing
Thank you.
about your process.
I'm gonna add Cassie when my fall newsletter, when I send that out, I'll add Cassie to it so that you can see some of the other stuff that I'm working on.
Good.
It's all exciting, really fun stuff. And if I neglected to say this earlier, I'm totally game to. I have a friend that lives in Clearwater. And she's
Oh,
always inviting me to come down and stay. So, if you wanted to work out any kind of in-person workshop with me, I have a place to stay. I'm totally all for it. It really is, up to you guys. And if it's not this year, in the future, I
great.
really want you to be on my radar and vice versa.
I'll definitely do that. I'll send your information to Dion, because he's our new adult education director, who, the whole thing with Jason and blah, blah, blah. So this is why I had to take over this part of that anyway. But I definitely think that would be something that people would be interested in the future. So
Oh, I do.
know about it. And everything is going, the reason we waited on the website, lots of reasons, but mostly after this Zoom, now we have everything. So
Right.
all the work as
Mm.
well as the recordings, and then links to your website. And I'm gonna probably put the description of the project that you guys proposed as well. So that way everything is gonna be up at one time, hopefully.
It's
Within the
such
next week or
group
so.
you're going to enjoy to see everybody, Carol.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm really pumped about yeah, what everybody else has offered and what everybody else has to say. And I thank you three for taking the time out of what I'm sure are very busy schedules to Zoom with me and let me ramble on and on and on and on and on about my work.
We thank you.
Yeah, and it was nice meeting you.
Same. I look forward to staying connected.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Bye.
Great day, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Nathan.